Okay, so dear students, so as we are dealing with chapter 4 Aneka cloud application platform, so till now the classes in class we have covered the following chapters, that is about the framework overview, anatomy of an Aneka container, and in today's class also we discussed about how the platform abstraction layer and what are its responsibilities, and fabric services. In fabric services, what are actually the process, or what are the works done in the fabric services, foundation services, and application services. So after this, after learning about the anatomy of the Aneka container, so we let's move on to the next topic, is about building Aneka clouds. So in building Aneka clouds, in building Aneka clouds, actually these are the subtopics. What all we will be discussing is that about infrastructure organization, logical organization, private cloud deployment mode, public cloud deployment mode, and hybrid cloud deployment mode. So overall, as you have seen the subtopics, so first, in building Aneka cloud, so we will be learning about how the infrastructure organization have been made while rendering the by using, or by using this Aneka cloud platform. So and then how the logical organization are done in this, using this particular Aneka platform. Uh, so how the logical organization have been made. So all these things will be covered in this particular topic, building Aneka clouds. Mhm. Okay. So, building Aneka clouds. So, basically, this particular topic deals with how the user, and how the Aneka cloud, how we are going to utilize this particular platform, and how to build applications on this particular cloud platform is nothing but about building Aneka clouds. So, as you all know, Aneka, a software platform for developing and managing distributed cloud applications. So distributed ಆಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ cloud applications ನ utilize ಮಾಡೋದು, sorry, how we are going to develop and manage that particular thing. So basically, by this particular thing we come to a thing that, so Aneka is a software platform wherein which we are going to develop and manage the cloud application things. So in deployment methods, actually, so Aneka clouds also support public, private, and hybrid cloud. Okay. So next, basically the infra, so in building the Aneka cloud, the first, and whatever platform it is in the cloud computing, so first and the basic foremost thing whenever we are dealing with the cloud computing application is that nothing but infrastructure of that particular cloud. So here also we have taken up the first thing, infrastructure organization, how the infrastructure as a service, or how the physical hardware devices, how they are actually used here. So how it has been developed, or how it has been made, or how it has been included in order to render very good cloud application platforms to the user, that with the example of this Aneka container. Okay. So what are the key components? So next one is about the what are the key components which are involved in this particular infrastructure organization. So the first and the foremost thing is about the administrative console. So what will be there in this particular administrative console? So central management tool for the deployment, monitoring, and configuration. So these are actually involved in this particular first, dear students, we have to think about it, the first and the foremost thing whenever we are talking about the key components of an infrastructure of any cloud thing is about, the first is about the administrative console. Second one is about the repositories. So repositories nothing but they are the storage thing which are involved here. Storing of the libraries, storing of the images, storing of the node informations. So all these things are actually will be stored in the repositories. As you all know, repository andre ಏನು, ಈಗ ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಬ್ಲಡ್ ಬ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಅಂತ ಕರೀತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಬ್ಲಡ್ ರೆಪಾಸಿಟರೀಸ್ ಅಂತಾನೂ ಕರಿಬಹುದು. ಸೊ ಈ ತರದ್ದೆಲ್ಲ ಬರ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತವೆ. ಅಥವಾ ಹ್ಯೂಮನ್ ಆರ್ಗನ್ ರೆಪಾಸಿಟರೀಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು? ಸೊ ವಿಚ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಸ್ಟೋರಿಂಗ್ ದ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವಾಟ್. So storing of the Aneka libraries in order to perform or render the cloud applications. So we obviously need the libraries. So storing of the Aneka libraries and software images. Yeah. So we are going to another key components which are involved in infrastructure organization is nothing but the first second one is about the repositories. So how those repositories are accessible? So via HTTP, FTP and file sharing system. So how they are accessible ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ protocols ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಹೇಗೆ we are going to access them through internet, through net. So there then computer networks or the protocols which are rendering the services which are used in the network, so they play a major role in these things. So that is why accessible via HTTP protocol, FTP file transfer protocol. So those are the things. Next key component which is there in next key component is about the node manager. So node manager is a manager wherein which it operates or manages each node. As I said in the previous class, please make another time, I'm making it important that nodes are also very important. So remote management services for deploying and controlling of the containers on nodes. So those are the things actually. Next one is about the Aneka containers, executable units installed on nodes performing the Aneka cloud. Okay. So this is one of the diagram which explains about the how the infrastructure organization has been made in Aneka cloud. Okay, can you see here? So the globe and how the cloud has been there. So you can see here the Aneka cloud or the containers are there. So in this particular thing, Aneka clouds are actually they are considered as a node. Okay, so each and every node, so everything is considered as a node. You see, Aneka container, a node, or Aneka container, a node, Aneka contour, a node. Okay, so this one is about whatever we're talking about. This one is Aneka repository. So this particular repository is nothing but which is having all the information, all the node informations, or all the files things whatever are there, that those are actually stored here, and all of the things are actually managed by this management console. So each and every Aneka container is associated or it is also called as a node manager. Okay, so whenever we talk about which are the key components of our Aneka clouds are the node manager, are also called as Aneka containers, or else you can take it as Aneka container and also called as node managers, and then Aneka repositories and Aneka management console. So these are actually the three main components which are involved in infrastructure management. So how the deployment process will go on. So infrastructure ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಿದೀವಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಡಿಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆನೂ ಹೇಗೆ ಡಿಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಕ್ಲೌಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂತ ಅಂದಾಗ, ಸೊ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಸ್ಟೆಪ್ of deployment process is repositories provide libraries for installation. So as you are all the software engineers, so we know whenever, so basically in so basically in whenever we are talking about infrastructure organization, so in the deployment of that infrastructure organization, so we make use of uh, so in this particular deployment process, so the first step in the deployment process is repositories. Okay, they actually, what is the use of this repository? Nothing but divide libraries installation process. As I said, this particular platform is helpful in all other platforms, nothing but all other operating system, wherein it can run in Windows, it can run in Windows, it can run in Mac operating system, it can run in Ubuntu, it can run in Unix operating. I said so. So for different kind of operating system, we need different libraries. So in order to adjust to that particular operating system, the libraries are very much in use of it. So next one is administrative console. So administrative console is nothing but it selects and deploys what are the software is in need of it. Next one is about the Aneka daemon. So where it installs and manages containers on the nodes. So this is what it does. So next, fourth step in the deployment process is network of containers forms the Aneka cloud. So the network of the container forms that the Aneka cloud. So all these things are involved wherein which in deployment of the infrastructure of the Aneka cloud. So next one, so next topic is about the logical organization of the Aneka cloud. So this particular diagram explains us about how so this diagram explains about how logical organization has been made of this Aneka data. So as I was repeatedly saying in the earlier classes, please do remember the word node. The word node. So here in the logical organization of the Aneka cloud computing. So these are actually nodes. So each every node, how that is, so this is how we are going to study in detail. So this particular diagram explains about how the logical organization of the each and every node has been made. So what are those nodes? There are actually three nodes are there. So which are the first node is about master node, and the second one is worker node, and the third one is about storage node. Now, the first and foremost node is about master node. So, as the name itself says, master is the one who is very superior and who is actually monitoring all other nodes. So, in the diagram or the what is it? The representation same thing. So, in master node, so there are each certain index is there, scheduling will be there, accounting will be there, reporting will be there, reservation, provisioning, and mandatory systems will be there. If in case if any of master node fails, so there the whatever the logical organization we have a backup or it has a proxy. So whenever, so failing this master node is of rarest case. If 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 it goes wrong, so this have a backup. So you can see here and compare the between index master scheduling account. What all will be shared in this, a duplicate copy saved in the another thing. So the organization of the node is about the worker node, or it is also called, so the index of master. So you all know index is nothing but it is actually the root how it is going. Basically your textbooks also have index. Am I right? So textbook in a index ಏನೇನಿರ್ತದೆ ಯಾವ್ಯಾವ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ಯಾವ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ನಂಬರ್ ಏನು ಅದ್ರ ನೇಮ್ ಏನು ಅದ್ರ ಸಬ್ ಟಾಪಿಕ್ಸ್ ಏನು ಇದೆಲ್ಲದು ಬರ್ತದೆ. ಸೊ ದ ಸೇಮ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ರಿಲೇಟೆಡ್ ಟು ಮಾಸ್ಟರ್ ಅಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ವರ್ಕರ್ ನೋಡ್. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ವರ್ಕರ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಇಂಡೆಕ್ಸ್ ಇರ್ತದೆ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಸ್ಲಿಪ್. And what are the other sections that involve worker node? Execution, allocation, and mandatory procedures. So moving to the next third node is about, and it is also one of the, it is also one of the nodes. So wherein which it has storage, how much storage is needed, mandatory thing, and then index of it will be there. Now let's come to the explanation part of this. As Aneka Cloud's logical structure varies containers configuration. The most common setup in this particular is about the master architecture or master slave architecture. Operational with operational storage nodes. So, what this logical organization of the Aneka cloud does so it ensures scalability, load balancing, and tolerance. Next is about how the integrity and the reliability of this particular cloud is nothing. So all nodes are registered with the, so we can see here all the storage nodes are actually connected with the master nodes here. Okay, so all the nodes are registered with the master. Suppose if any of the master node if it fails, so then the failover are there for uninterrupted operations. So Aneka Cloud's logical design is nothing but it is a combination of master, worker, and the storage nodes. So why it is a combination is in order to render efficient services for these to give an efficient service. Next one is about the logical organization also talks about efficiency, scalability, and resilience in distributed cloud environment. So how it is there in the distributed cloud environment. So these are all distributed cloud environments. You can all see here. So master node is connected with all other nodes and they are really connected with one master node. All these are actually the node and the storage node. Okay, moving on to the next one. So let's explain about how the master node and what are the involved node and then storage. So master node. So what are characteristics of master node? So the basic characteristics of a master node is it acts as a control center. It acts as a control center of the cloud. And what it hosts critical and single instance services. So basically, what are the in the logical organization? What are all it is involved? Index service, master copy, reservation service, resource provisioning service, scheduling service, accounting and reporting and monitoring service, audit and logging services. Other than these services, what are another characteristics of this master node is nothing. It is connected to all relational. It is connected in the form of relational DBMS. Okay, RDBMS for persistent and fault tolerant data storage. It can be replicated for high availability and then replicated in the So next one is about worker node. So worker node is like which is also one of the type of the node wherein which it provides computing power for the executing applications. So what are the typical services which are provided by the worker node is the first one is index, heartbeat and logging services, and allocation and monitoring services, execution services. These are actually the services which are actually rendered by the worker node. So here in worker node it can also be partitioned by the programming model and the or the workload. Next type of node is about storage node. So in storage node, so here this particular storage node is dedicated to application data management. So this wherein which in this particular storage node it includes index, heartbeat, logging and monitoring services. The only difference between worker node and the storage node is that, so here in the worker node there is no monitoring services, but in the storage node we have a monitoring services. Okay, next one is about the storage service. So this is actually the core function of this particular storage node. So number depends on workload and data requirements. Next one is about for a small setups, storage can reside in on the master node itself. So wherein which where when there are very minute operations or very minimum operations, so a particular user can relay directly on the master node without the intervention of the storage. So after completing about the logical organization in the Aneka cloud, so we are moving on to the deployment modes. Okay, deployment modes in the several types of clouds. So the types of clouds nothing but private, public, and hybrid. So this is one particular diagram. This particular diagram explains us about how the private cloud deployment is made in the Aneka cloud. So what are all involved in this? So basically, so what are all involved in this private cloud deployment mode of Aneka? So before getting into that, so this particular diagram explains us about the private cloud deployment mode. So here there is a master node. Okay, what are actually involved? Master node, virtual clusters, desktop machines, clusters, and workstations. So these are actually involved. So as you all know, these workstations, clusters, and desktops are infrastructure as a service provider. On per of that, so we have a master node wherein which a private cloud deployment, how it will take place with the help of the Aneka. So in the master node, as we know, the resource provisioning is there, application management scheduling will be there, and then resource reservations will be there. Okay, so now we are getting into the private cloud deployment mode. So here in private cloud deployment mode of Aneka, so it involves logical physical resources where desktops, cluster workstations managed by the local infrastructure softwares. It creates an Aneka cloud using heterogeneous pool of local nodes. What are the key features involved in the private cloud deployment mode are, so local resource pool, resource provisioning services, predictable workloads. So these are the key features. Now let us take up these key features one by one. The first key feature is about resource management. So students, please keep it in your mind that resource management is nothing but, so how the allocation of the clusters, how the allocation of the infrastructure nodes are there, so all those things. So long lifetime physical nodes with static configurations, so all these are actually involved. So reservation services enables policy based scheduling. So here service level agreements plays a major role wherein which policy based scheduling will be there. So hey gay policy based servicing, daytime or night time. ಸೊ ಡೇ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಗಿರ್ತದೆ, ಡೆಸ್ಕ್ಟಾಪ್ ಯೂಸ್ಡ್ ಫಾರ್ ಆಫೀಸ್ ವರ್ಕ್, ನೈಟ್ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ಸೇಮ್ ಡೆಸ್ಕ್ಟಾಪ್ ಯೂಸ್ಡ್ ಫಾರ್ ಡಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಬ್ಯೂಟೆಡ್ computing system, and the workstation cluster can run on specialized applications or legacy of softwares. So now is about what are the advantages of this resource management. So one of the advantages of this particular resource management is about providing high security and high control, and efficient utilization of the idle resources. Efficient utilization of the idle resources and the system, wherein which if the daytime it is working, at the night time it will be uh, when it will not be usable, at that time that particular system is said to be idle. So utilization, efficient utilization of the idle resources. Next, customizable policies for specific workloads. Excuse me. Customizable policies for the specific workloads. Next one is about public cloud deployment mode for Aneka cloud. So we talked about private cloud. Now we are talking about public cloud deployment mode. So Aneka deployment on virtualized infrastructures offers infrastructure as a service providers like Amazon EC2, Go Grid, etc. So obviously public cloud means which are actually accessible for everybody. So how this particular Aneka cloud deployments takes place for a public cloud is discussed here. So basically in deployment of the public cloud takes place in actually two types of model. The first one is static deployment, second one is dynamic deployment. As the heading itself says, static means there will be no it is a fixed setup. It doesn't change according to the user needs, or with respect to the environment, or with respect to the applications and all. So it is static itself. So pre-provision nodes behaving like a physical machines or fixed setup. So next, coming on to the dynamic deployment, it is actually an elastic provisioning, wherein which on demand access or on demand scalable or cost efficient, whenever you pay as you go. So all these things will be coming under dynamic deployment. So this particular diagram explains you about how the public cloud deployment will be made for Aneka cloud. So here the first boundary whatever you are seeing here. So the first boundary, what you are seeing here, is Elastic Cloud 2 boundaries. Inside of Elastic EC2 boundaries, we have master and a slave node. Okay. So in a master node, what are all, see, in order to have a communication, or wherein which all the two nodes or master node and a slave node are embedded with the Amazon EC2 instances. These are actually the foundations for them to work actually. So here you can see in the master node, application management scheduling is there, reporting, billing and accounting will be done, and then resource provisioning. With resource provisioning actually, how with the resource provisioning the slave node works. Okay, this is about the slave node. So now, what are the key components which are involved in public cloud deployment? So as I said in the diagram, so it is about resource provisioning service, accounting and reporting services, dynamic worker node, and then storage service scaling. So what are the advantages of this public cloud deployment in on Aneka cloud? The first one is about the elasticity scaling, cost effective, high availability and resource flexibility. So this is about the public cloud deployment mode of an Aneka cloud infrastructure. So this was all about public cloud deployment of the Aneka cloud. So next, moving on to the next type of cloud deployment is about hybrid cloud deployment, hybrid cloud deployment mode of an Aneka cloud. So this particular diagram explains us about like showing us about how the hybrid clouds are actually uh, organized in an hybrid cloud will be how the hybrid cloud is organized with the help how the hybrid cloud is organized of an deployment mode in an Aneka cloud. So you can see here, so we have a local infrastructure. This is a local infrastructure of a user, and this is about public cloud. So local infrastructure again, it is having master node, and then master node in are having desktops and workstations, clusters and virtual cluster resources. Okay, again, you all know the master node is involved in application management, scheduling, reporting, billing, counting, resource reservation, and provisioning the services. So these are public clouds. So Amazon Web Services is also a kind of or a type of is or else it is an example for public cloud, and GoGrid is also an example for public cloud. Now, next, let us dive into how the public cloud deployment mode is made. So, hybrid cloud deployment mode in Aneka is all about resource utilization. So, as in the previous chapters we discussed, what is the hybrid cloud? It is always a combination of private and a public cloud. So resource utilization will be done in actually basically two types: local resources and external infrastructure as a service. Next, local resources, desktops for low priority jobs will be there, workstations or clusters for continuous execution, local virtualization for moderate scaling. So external infrastructure as a service used when additional computing power is needed. So multiple providers can be leveraged simultaneously. So multiple providers can be andre multiple users can also be simultaneously given the equal opportunity to utilize that particular cloud. So what are the advantages of this particular hybrid cloud deployment? So obviously optimized cost efficiency, flexible and scalable infrastructure, policy driven provisioning via Aneka resource provisioning services, and lastly seamless integration. So seamless integration is nothing but whatever the adjustment or the adaptation will be there with respect to all kinds of heterogeneous environment, or so this particular integration can be done to any environment, Windows environment, Linux environment, Ubuntu environment, or iOS environment. So this is one of the thing about the hybrid cloud deployment. So this is all about this particular chapter, which is of an Aneka cloud and platform to be explained. So this particular chapter basically addresses an Aneka, a cloud platform. So in this chapter, we have covered how the framework will be there, and then how what are the anatomies of Aneka container. In anatomy of the container, again we discussed about what is platform abstraction layer, and what are the fabric services, what is foundation services, what are the key features or key components involved in that, and then application services. Building Aneka clouds, another section is about on what kind of environment and how it is actually developed, the Aneka cloud. So that is what about the infrastructure organization, logical organization of the cloud. Okay, infrastructure organization of a cloud, and then logical. So when we talk about logical organization, this master slave pattern came into the existence. And here in the logical organization we addressed about three kinds of nodes. One is master node, one is worker node, and one other one is the storage node. So next, we discussed about private cloud deployment mode, public cloud deployment mode, and then hybrid cloud deployment mode. So thank you.